Howdy y'all, and welcome to Warships 101 with Bucketeer. This is going to be a series about game mechanics, and for the inaugural episode, I want to go over something that people talk a lot about but don't really ever explain: anti-aircraft fire. At its most basic, every ship has an anti-aircraft rating, a flat number that's supposed to represent how good its anti-aircraft defenses are. However, you're going to quickly see that this number is best not taken too seriously, as it doesn't reflect the kind of AA ability you have and should only be used for a very rough comparison. Okay, the basics. When you open up the AA tab, you get some info about each anti-aircraft gun or group of guns on your ship. The game tells you their effective range and then their DPS, or damage per second. And this is where the problems start. When you read DPS, you immediately think damage per second. Since aircraft have hit points, you would logically now be thinking that your AA guns are actually doing damage to the aircraft's hit points, and when one gets to 0, the aircraft goes down. Wrong. What actually happens is that your AA guns are creating an AA aura or AA zone, for lack of a better term. Every second enemy aircraft are in range of your anti-aircraft guns, the game is checking the value of your AA guns, expressed as DPS, against the fighter's hit points. Your AA gun DPS is divided by the aircraft's hit points. The resulting percentage is the percent chance each second an enemy aircraft within range is shot down. The higher your AA firepower, the greater the chance you're going to knock down aircraft. This is also why lower tier aircraft get shot down so easily. They have lower damage resistance or lower hit points, while higher aircraft are so tough to knock down. They have more. Also, this is based off time, so it matters how the aircraft are attacking you. Torpedo bombers that drop torps 1.5 kilometers or more away aren't spending as much time in your short-ranged AA zone as dive bombers, therefore aren't as likely to be knocked down. Also, this AA aura doesn't take into account the actual firing arcs of the guns or terrain. It's just universal. Alright, let's start from the top with the USS Cleveland, because the Cleveland is awesome. We're also going to use the Ryujo's Achi Val dive bombers for comparison. They have 1,210 hit points. The first guns enemy aircraft are going to encounter are the 5-inch dual-purpose guns, 6 twin turrets with a range of 5 kilometers, and they do 91 DPS. So every second the dive bombers are in range, there's a 7.5% chance the squadron is going to lose a plane every second. Now as the bombers close, they enter the range of the 40mm Bofors, which have a range of 3.5 kilometers and a DPS of 68. Now the Bofors DPS is added to the 5-inch guns DPS for a combined total of 159 and a 13.1% chance to shoot down a bomber every second. Finally, the 20mm get into the show with a 2-kilometer range and 47 DPS. Added to the rest, we're up to 206 DPS and a 17% chance to knock down a bomber each second. That doesn't sound fantastic, but recall, you're getting that chance every second and you're getting it against every squadron of bombers. There are 2 ways to boost your AA DPS outside of commander skills and modules. The first is by designating a target. You can hold down Control and click on an enemy squadron. This has your anti-aircraft guns focus on that squadron alone and increases your DPS against it by 30%. The second is the defensive fire cooldown. On top of the big benefit to defensive fire in that it shakes enemy pilots, therefore making them drop their bombs in a wider spread and their torpedoes in a more erratic pattern, it also increases your anti-aircraft DPS by 300% for anti-aircraft guns 25mm and larger on all cruisers and American destroyers at higher tiers. U.S. carriers and Imperial Japanese Navy carriers both have defensive fire, with the U.S. getting a 125% boost to their DPS and the Japanese getting a 175% boost to their DPS. Add in designating a target and your DPS can increase by up to 390%. So, when you're driving the Cleveland and you hit defensive fire against that Ryujo's dive bombers, you're now looking at a 29.3%, 51.2%, and 55.1% chance, respectively. Now, recall that the 20mm Oerlikons are too small to benefit from the defensive fire cooldown, which is why when the bombers get closer, you're not really seeing that much of an improvement. Moving out of the mechanical and into the theoretical, we can now start to dissect that very vague anti-aircraft rating. First off, looking at the Cleveland, you can see that while the 20mm did add a lot of DPS to the party, they only did it at a range of 2 kilometers. Against torpedo bombers, that's not going to have much of an impact, and even against dive bombers, it's not going to do much. The aircraft will spend 1 to 3 seconds at most in range of the 20mm guns. On top of that, the 20mm did not benefit from defensive fire. Most of the work to attrit enemy squadrons before they can attack you is done by the 5-inch and 40mm guns. So when looking at AA, the range is very important. A huge quantity of very short-ranged guns isn't going to help stop you from getting bombed. It might cost the carrier a plane or two, but they'll get through. A powerful long-range anti-aircraft battery, however, can potentially stop enemy aircraft before they ever get a chance to drop on you. This is why I personally make the distinction between a self-defense and a fleet anti-aircraft capability. The Cleveland is very much a fleet defense ship. Those 5-inch guns, and to a lesser extent the 40mm, can provide a lot of DPS out to a range, letting you help provide cover for other ships, especially when you activate defensive fire. Your average Imperial Japanese Navy ship, however, is much more weighted towards the shorter range anti-aircraft, making them a pain to deal with, but they can't really provide cover for other ships the way a U.S. carrier can. Let's also take a look at what happens when you get up-tiered or down-tiered. First off, if you wind up against a Tier 5 Zuiho, you're looking at about a 22% increase in your chance to shoot down an enemy aircraft. This becomes especially potent once you get down to activating your defensive fire, as you get up to almost a 2 out of 3 chance to knock down an enemy bomber every single second. You're going to chew through that Zuiho's bombers if they come after you. However, if you wind up against a Tier 7 Hiryu, their 1400 hit point dive bombers are going to result in about a 14% reduction in your effective anti-aircraft fire. And you're going to see yourself going from a little more than 1 dive bomber every other second to only about 2 dive bombers every 5 seconds, with your defensive fire cooldown activated. Being up-tiered can significantly degrade the effectiveness of your anti-aircraft fire. This also goes to show why carrier players have such a hard time when they get up-tiered in a battle. When you wind up in a Tier 7 or Tier 8 carrier in a Tier 9 or even Tier 10 match, the enemy's anti-aircraft fire becomes brutally effective. And even a ship without defensive fire can see itself wiping out entire squadrons of aircraft. So hopefully the next time that you go in and you start talking about anti-aircraft fire with other people, you're going to have a little bit more of an understanding of the actual underlying mechanics and how things are working, so that when you go to examine a ship's anti-aircraft capabilities, you're going to be able to form a more complete and more accurate picture of what it can really do. This has been Bogatir. I'll catch you guys next time.